Always Want to Know webinar of the University of California Education Abroad Program, or UCEAP. My name is Lauren Nestler, and I am an Associate Program Director here at UCEAP. This webinar is being recorded, and it will be posted to the UCEAP website. This presentation is intended for summer program participants and their support networks, which includes immediate family, extended relatives, friends, and any other individual a student considers to be a support person. My colleagues and I will be sharing UCEAP tools, support, and resources that prepare your students for this exciting cultural and academic journey. Throughout this presentation, we will include QR codes that link to some important resources, so consider having your phone nearby to scan them throughout this presentation. And before we get started, we're going to launch a poll, and we'd like to have you complete this poll to help us understand our audience. So question one, what type of attendee are you? UCEAP student, parent, guardian support network, or student and support person joining together? Question two, what region of the world will your student be studying in? Africa, Asia, Australia, New Zealand, Europe, Middle East, and the Americas. And we'll give you about 30 seconds or so to fill out that poll. All right, so we have about 12% students, 65% parents, and 23% together. Thank you everybody for joining. And we have mostly 64% in Europe, and then 23% going to Asia, and 13% to the Americas. Right. Okay, so let's go on to the agenda. Today, we will be covering data privacy, an overview of the UCEUP portal and its resources, pre-departure requirements, academics, health and safety topics, and finances. Today, we are not going to be covering program-specific information such as visas, housing, post-university applications, or academic requirements. We're not going to be covering program-specific information for your student's program. However, we will be showing you where your student can find that information on those topics. We do hope to answer all your questions throughout this presentation. However, if we don't, write your question down. At the end of the session, we will be opening up a Q&A, so you can write your questions into the Q&A section, and we will have a dedicated Q&A at the end of the webinar. All right, so we're going to start with valuing and safeguarding privacy. At UCEAP, we are committed to protecting the privacy and confidentiality of our students. Doing so is a legal requirement under U.S. federal law, such as the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, otherwise known as FERPA, California law, such as the Information Privacy Act, and other international laws. Because of these legal protections afforded to students, a UC staff member is generally prohibited from disclosing personal information, such as the student's contact information, location, program of participation, academic records, and financial records to any third party without the student's consent, and that includes family members and friends. Students can authorize access to their records to their family members during the application process, or by sending an email to the contact on the slide to update their privacy preference. However, please keep in mind, we expect the student to be our primary contact, both in the pre-departure process and while they're on site. Managing communications throughout the process is part of the growth that students benefit from when they're studying abroad. In light of these laws, we encourage each student to proactively share program information directly with you, their support network, and authorize the consent for disclosure of information to any trusted individuals in advance of their travels whenever they feel appropriate to do so. We also understand that students want to connect with other UC students on their program so that they can make travel plans and build a community. However, due to FERPA regulations, we can't share contact information of the other participants. So students will have an opportunity to connect with other UC students on their program, either through campus-based events or through virtual events hosted by the system-wide office. So encourage your student to reach out to their UCAP advisor about these events or information on how to set up group chats on social media such as Discord. UC and UCAP have a robust staff of experienced professionals to support your student throughout their entire study abroad journey. So right now we're going to highlight the various offices and explain who the main point of contacts are for specific topics. So we start at the UC campus. Since students are still a UC student while on their program, they will need to work with their UC campus offices on the campus-specific topics that are listed on this slide. The QR code on this slide will take you to the page on the UCEAP website that lists their campus study abroad contact information. Students will go to their campus study abroad office for certain campus-based processes to prepare for their time abroad. And that'll be the things that are listed in the box on the far left-hand side. Students will also talk to their campus academic advisors and departments to discuss any academic items listed on the center box on this slide. And we are going to talk a little bit more in detail about academics a little bit later in this presentation. And finally, students will also be in contact with their campus financial aid office to get more information on what types of aid are available, along with other finance topics that are listed on the slide, on the box on the right. Then we move over to the UCAP system-wide office. That is this office that is hosting this webinar. We work very closely with the campus offices to support your students. Once students have been nominated to a program, they will work with the staff in our office for their program-specific requirements. Your student can find contact information for our system-wide staff on the UCEAP website and in their UCEAP portal. You can also use the QR code on this slide. Every program has a designated study abroad advisor and program specialist who work closely together on the logistical aspects of their program. Questions about pre-departure requirements and all the other items listed on this first box, such as visas, post applications, and housing, will go to the study abroad advisor and program specialist. Academic specialists assist with UCAP academic policies, provide guidance on course registration process abroad, and can answer questions about grades, petitions, academic records, and UCAP study lists. And finally, UCAP finance accountants can answer questions on program-related statements, fees and collection timelines, withdrawal fees, and refunds in the event of a program withdrawal. Note that questions about financial aid will need to be answered in consultation with the campus financial aid officer, as mentioned on the previous slide. And that final layer is the support abroad. So the on-site support structure will look different from program to program, but no matter the program, students will have a main point of contact for on-site matters. Some programs have a local UCAP study center. Other programs will have staff support at the host university international office, while others will have local support through a study abroad provider. For more information on the type of on-site support your student's program provides, review the support tab on the UCEAP program pages. Your student will also get contact information for their primary on-site support staff in their arrival information and program guide. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Ashley Arvanites, who will cover the UCEAP portal.
Thanks, Lauren. My name is Ashley Arvanites, and I'm the Pre-Departure Managing Supervisor here at UCEAP. As Lauren already mentioned, your student has a private account in the UCEAP portal, which contains a wealth of information about their program, the finances, the academic, and health and safety information. The pre-departure menu contains requirements and tasks that they must complete before departure, as well as other program-specific details, including their program dates, insurance information, health and safety information, policies, petitions, and their UCEAP contacts for that particular program. Students can use that pre-departure requirements checklist to track their progress and refer to those resources as needed. But we do encourage all students to continuously and regularly check their email for important reminders and updates before and during their program. So we're not going to go into every single pre-departure section, but I did want to highlight a few key resources in this section of the portal. If there are specific areas of interest to you, I would encourage you to sit down with your student or set up a video call so you could review those resources together. So this slide has a sample of the pre-departure requirements section of our UCEAP portal. The items within the requirement section are going to vary slightly by program, but each item includes resources and links with more information. And I did want to mention a couple that apply to all programs. And the first one is our program guides. So this is a very robust resource that contains detailed information on their local emergency contacts, their academic information, some packing tips, how do they bank and use money abroad, internet and phone access, housing and meals, cultural awareness, and disability accommodation information. So every single program is going to have a very detailed program guide that is posted in the UCAP portal. The next is housing information. So housing varies greatly program to program, and it can be anything from on or off campus dorms, apartments, or even homestays. So the housing information item is going to include details about what options are available, what does the reservation or application process look like, as well as some important deadlines or timelines. So it is your student's responsibility for taking steps to they need to in order to secure their housing abroad. Another one that's probably on the front of a lot of your minds is the visa and entry requirements. Once again, these are going to vary by program, so it's essential that your student reviews that visa guidance carefully. The process and timeline is going to depend on a number of factors, including your student's citizenship, the duration of their program, the visa regulations, the visa processing timelines at the consulates, and much more. And finally, every program will also have some arrival information. So once available, this arrival information will be posted, and it's going to have a lot of details on how to get to the program location, who to contact in the event of a flight delay, and much more. Lauren already sort of touched on this a little bit, but we know that your students are busy with their classes and extracurricular activities, but rather than completing these tasks for them, we encourage your students to play an active role in preparing for their program. You can remind them to utilize existing resources or reach out to UCEAP staff on their own in order to get their questions answered. All right, flights and program dates. So all students are responsible for purchasing their own flights, as UCEAP does not arrange group travel to and from program locations. We understand that the desire to purchase airfare early, but we also strongly recommend that students wait until the program dates are finalized before making their travel plans. Students are also encouraged to purchase refundable and changeable airline tickets in the event that their plans change. UCEAP cannot refund ticket costs if your student needs to adjust or rebook their flights. The program dates section will appear in the pre-departure menu once the program dates have been finalized. At this point, many, but not all program dates and calendars are going to be available. If your students' program dates haven't been posted yet, they will be notified via email once those dates are available or if there are any adjustments to those program dates. I do want to sort of add a little bit of context here as well that some of our partner institutions don't finalize their schedules as early as we are accustomed to at UC. But know that our team is working very closely with those partners and want to share those program dates with students as soon as possible. In terms of the arrival and departure dates, students are required to be present on site from the program start date through the program end date. Arriving by the program start date ensures that students get key information essential for a successful time abroad and allows them to participate in the initial bonding with other participants. Students not on site by the official start date are going to be subject to disciplinary action. It may be possible for a student to arrive early or even stay after the program ends, but it will depend on a few factors, including visa duration, citizenship, and housing availability. So, any students interested in staying beyond their program dates can contact their program specialist to learn more. So, now we're going to launch a quick poll to see how familiar you are with the resources that we've shared so far. And we'll give everybody 30 seconds or so to fill out the poll. So this poll question says, has your student shown you the UCEP portal and other pre-departure resources we have covered? The answers are yes, I've seen their account in the portal and reviewed them. Yes, I've seen some, but maybe not all of those resources. No, this is the first time I've been introduced to these resources, or I'm not sure. So it looks like we've got, I think we can go ahead and end that poll. It looks like we've actually got a pretty good mix. It looks like a little over half of you have seen some, but maybe not all resources, and other ones this may be the first time. So for those of you that it's the first time, if you are interested in learning more, I would encourage you to connect with your students and ask them to share some of the links to the resources we have in the UCEP portal. All right. And then in terms of mandatory orientation, so your students will all have at least three mandatory orientations. So each UC campus hosts their own campus-specific orientation, which typically covers campus-based study abroad processes. UC EAP staff, study center staff, or partner institution staff will host at least one virtual orientation during the pre-departure phase. These orientations cover the same topics included in the UCEAP portal, including visa applications, housing, money and banking abroad, health and insurance, safety, academics, including course information. And finally, the on-site orientation is going to cover the practical aspects of living abroad, including taking local transportation, emergency phone numbers, health and safety consideration, how to access medical care abroad, academic cultural differences, and administrative and academic processes at the host institution. All right. So on this slide, I'd like to talk a little bit about confronting challenges and the growth that students are going to experience abroad. And so I wanted to sort of start off with a couple of tips in order to help your student be successful during their time on UCEAP. We know that students are really excited about the opportunity to travel, immerse themselves in a new culture, make new friends. But just as they did when they came to UC, they'll need to take the initiative to really start to build their community abroad. These kind of connections abroad can really help ease feelings of loneliness and provide support as they navigate the challenges, discomfort, and growth associated with living in a new environment. As you imagine, things may look or operate very differently than what they're used to on their UC campus. So while these differences can be unsettling at first, it's important to remember that that's a part of the experience and that navigating these differences and challenges really helps students develop those key skills, including confidence, adaptability, and resilience. So encourage your student to get outside their comfort zone, practice being patient and flexible, and to make some time for reflection. If your student does experience an issue abroad, such as having no hot water in their apartment or a conflict with a roommate, they may alert you as you are a part of their support network. And while it is helpful for you to empathize with them, remind them to contact their on-site staff rather than trying to solve the problems for them from afar. Our local staff are best equipped to assist students with both routine and urgent matters. Later in this presentation, our Director of International Health, Safety, and Crisis Management will cover what to do if your student alerts you to a more serious health and safety emergency. And so with that, I'm going to hand it over to our next speaker, Hannah Vandersall, to talk about UCEP academics.
Hi, everyone. I'm Hannah Vandersall. I'm the Academics Managing Supervisor at UCAP. So all students can earn direct UC credit for the courses they take through UCEAP. UCAP will automatically transmit courses units and grades back to the UC registrar, and they will be added to your student's UC transcript. However, whether the courses can count for major, minor, or general education or breadth requirements is determined by the individual UC campus. Therefore, your student should initiate conversations on how coursework applies to degree progress by speaking to department or college advisors early and continue communication with those advisors throughout the entire study abroad experience. Some campus-based academic advisors will give approvals prior to UCEAP participation, but many will not. Students should retain all of their academic work from their time abroad to help facilitate the articulation process. It is up to your student to understand the petition process and to follow through with the final steps upon their return. As mentioned previously, we have a team of specialists at the system-wide office who serve as your students' academic advisors for their time abroad. The academic specialists provide your student with information on how to register for courses, enrollment requirements, pass/no-pass policies, assessment and grading processes, as well as how to navigate different academic cultural contexts abroad. Your student will have contact with the academic specialists prior to departure, and then will continue to work with them while they are abroad. Grading methodologies may differ significantly among different higher education systems around the world. Understanding and adapting to those differences is a part of the study abroad journey. The academic specialists and on-site staff will provide students with information on how assessment methods may differ than that of UC. They will also provide deadlines for study list submissions and grading option changes. Pass/no-pass options are often available for UCEAP coursework, similarly as they are on UC campuses to mitigate GPA concerns. It is important that students adhere to these deadlines just as they would on their home UC campus. If applicable, your student will receive grading translation information after they arrive in their country. Grading and grade transmission abroad takes much longer than at UC. Students must be prepared for their grades to take, on average, from 1 to 3 months to transfer back to their home UC campus. Students who plan to graduate immediately following their UCEAP term abroad should connect with their campus advisors for information on the graduation filing process and timeline. Okay, so we're now going to do a quick academics quiz. All right, so the question is, which of the following statements are true about UCEAP academics? And you can select all that apply. So the first response is students are responsible for submitting their study abroad transcript to their home UC campus for UCEAP courses to be posted to their official UC transcripts. The second, grades can take 1 to 3 months to be reported back to the UC campus. Option 3, academic specialists or on-site staff will provide students with information on course registration procedures and enrollment requirements while abroad. And the last option, students automatically receive direct UC credit for their courses on UCAP, but must petition their department to satisfy specific major, minor, or GE requirements. All right. And I think we can go ahead and close the poll. Okay, so we've got some variety here. So for those of you that selected all but the first statement, you are correct. The first statement is the only one that's false. So students who study abroad on UCEAP will have their coursework and grades automatically transmitted to their UC Office of the Registrar. However, students still must petition for those courses to count toward their degree requirements. So please remind your students to initiate conversations with their campus departmental advisors if they haven't done so already, to discuss their planned coursework, how their planned coursework might apply to their degree progress. The academics team is responsible for maintaining academic standards while helping students navigate academic challenges. The first challenge is focusing on the purpose. Fundamentally, embarking on a UCEAP program is not travel abroad, it is study abroad. It is education. The primary purpose is learning inside and outside of the classroom in another part of the world. Students will be in a new culture and experience differences in learning and teaching. That's a big part of why you learn so much from studying abroad. Students need to be ready to adjust to cultural differences in teaching and learning. If your student is registered with their Disability Services Office on their UC campus and receives academic accommodations, encourage them to obtain a disability accommodations letter for their study abroad program and submit it to their UCEAP program specialist. UCEAP will help facilitate or advise on the process of requesting academic accommodations at the host institution, but it can take time to finalize accommodation plans. Therefore, it is in your student's best interest to start the process as soon as possible, and ideally a few months before departure, to investigate whether the specific accommodations will be available. The accommodations your student receives at their home UC campus may be different or unavailable at the host institution abroad. Sometimes your students will not learn whether accommodations are available at a host institution until after they arrive for their program. Remember, your student has a wide academic support network, including their campus academic advisors, UCEAP academic specialists, on-site staff, and associate deans. If they find that they are struggling with academic adjustments, please encourage them to reach out for help. And I'll now pass it on to our next speaker, Julie Pollard.
Thank you, Hannah. Good evening, everyone. I am the Director of International Health Safety and Crisis Management here at UCEAP. Safety is a partnership and a shared responsibility that requires students to be well-informed and active participants in their own well-being. Our department collectively has decades worth of experience supporting student safety. We provide tools, resources, and guidance on how to remain reasonably healthy and safe while abroad and provide emergency support when things go wrong. I'd like to discuss supporting your study abroad student, understanding what health safety resources students have access to, and how to utilize them. All resources described are available to all participants and are detailed in the student portal that Ashley previewed earlier. On your screen, you see the UCAP portal with arrows pointed to insurance and health and safety. Safety recommendations specific to your student's program are detailed in the health and safety section. We encourage students to review this section of the portal with their support network. All students must obtain a health clearance. It is an important and required component of studying abroad. Students should have already started this process. The instructions are in the UCAP portal under pre-departure requirements. This process is meant to help guide conversations about program participation with a medical professional. The instructions might differ based on the UC campus, but this slide shows a general overview of the process. It's important to be honest about any conditions managed or concerns regarding wellness while studying abroad. Prescribed medication should be researched for legality and availability in the program country. If specific conditions necessitate seeing a medical specialist, such as a psychiatrist, it is important to discuss a treatment plan and what is needed in order to be successful in the program. Please encourage your student to be mindful of the deadlines for this important process. All students are required to complete the online health and safety course. This slide provides an overview of the learning outcomes. The QR code takes you to a short video explaining the contents of this course. It was developed by University of California experts and includes essential and helpful information to better prepare for study abroad. The first 4 sections of the course cover health and safety topics that benefit all students studying in all program locations. There may be a 5th country-specific section depending on the location. The University of California partners with several organizations to support students. Chubb is our insurance provider for the UC travel policy, and AXA is our medical and travel assistance provider of this policy. Lyra is our virtual mental health provider. Crisis 24 is our risk management partner, helping the UC operate globally. In the next slides, we'll explore what each organization is, what they provide, and how their services can be utilized. Students are automatically enrolled in the Student and Travel Insurance Policy designed by Chubb for the University of California. The plan provides both medical and non-medical benefits. Student travel insurance does serve as the primary medical coverage while abroad, but it is not the same as health insurance in the United States. It does not cover preventative care, but it does offer unique coverages such as the emergency reunion benefit. If a student is enrolled in UC-SHIP while on campus, they will need to continue that enrollment while on a UCEAP program. Costs for medical care are usually paid out of pocket and are then reimbursable according to the policy details. Some benefits of this policy include prescription drugs, mental health counseling and a crisis hotline, medical and security evacuation, and continued treatment for pre-existing covered conditions. AXA is the travel assistance provider. AXA can help connect students with specific medical care abroad, evacuate in the event of a serious medical emergency, and provide global health teleconsultation through their app called Doctor Please. If a student has a more complex medical case that might require a specialist treatment plan while abroad, AXA's continuity of care planning can assist in organizing the support needed before leaving the US. We know that insurance is a complex topic, and therefore we provide extensive information on the UCEAP website, including the insurance policy brochure. Use the QR code on this slide to access that section of our website. We also have a staff member in the Health, Safety, and Crisis Management team dedicated to insurance issues and questions. Lyra offers virtual mental health sessions as well as a DIY approach through their online library of videos, articles, strategies, and meditations. Lyra provides up to 20 mental health counseling sessions for no additional fee. There is no paperwork, no fees are required. Students simply sign up and attend their sessions. Coverage begins on the arrival day in the program country. The QR code takes you to the web page to sign up. Crisis 24 provides risk advice and alerts as well as security evacuation services. All students are automatically enrolled to receive travel alerts for their program country and city. These alerts keep students informed of events that may impact daily life. It is important to read them and consider the advice provided. The Crisis 24 app allows students to research any location and obtain global travel tips. A personal profile can be created where alert notifications are customized. This is helpful when planning personal travel to other countries. For example, while on a personal trip, a student receives an alert that a protest is happening near to a museum where they intend to visit. Having this information allows the student to reconsider their plan and be properly informed about what is happening in a location that they might be unfamiliar with. The Crisis 24 app Horizon makes this process easy. During a crisis, UCAP will issue a welfare check. This means that a student will receive an email and a text from our emergency communication system asking for them to check in. We conduct a welfare check drill for students to familiarize them with this tool and process in the event of an actual emergency. The drill typically occurs in the beginning of the program and it's online. Responding to the welfare check drill is a requirement stated in the UCAP participation agreement. Students must update their local contact information while abroad in the UCAP portal to ensure we can reach them during a crisis. We recognize that eSIMs are a popular way to maintain data access internationally at an affordable rate. Please know that this does not allow a student to make a phone call, which could be required in an emergency. It is important to have a phone and a plan that allows students to call the UCAP emergency phone line, Chubb AXA Global Travel Assistance to open a travel insurance case, or to dial local emergency services. If a student is traveling outside of their program city, they are required to complete a travel sign-out in the UCAP portal so that they can be reached in the event of an emergency. If a student does not comply with these responsibilities, it may result in disciplinary action. We operate an emergency phone line that is answered 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Calls are answered by an emergency answering service and then directed to myself, a member of my department, or senior leadership in the global program team. Our emergency responders are trained and tested in dealing with all types of emergencies. The website listed on this slide is UCAP's In an Emergency webpage, which defines an emergency and details how to report incidents. If there is only one thing that you remember from my remarks today, please remember that this webpage exists. If you Google UCAP emergency, this is the first webpage that will come up. As a final reminder, please remember UCAP's website and our student portal are filled with resources and information that students should be reading. Using these resources proactively rather than reactively will help maintain wellness while abroad and cultivate an understanding of risks. And last but certainly not least, please reach out and ask for help before a situation becomes more serious. Wellness is truly a partnership, and together our goal is for students to have a successful academic experience. Can we please launch the health and safety poll? Our question is, which of the following are required of all program participants? It is multiple choice. A valid health clearance, completing the UCAP health and safety course, responding to a welfare check in the UCAP portal, downloading the Crisis 24 Horizons app on your mobile phone, and access to a phone line that can make and receive calls. Let's go ahead and see the answers. Okay, so all of them are required except downloading the Crisis 24 app. It is not required, but we do suggest and highly encourage it. I will now turn it over to our next speaker, Gildas Halle.
Thanks, Julie. My name is Gildas Halle. I'm a finance accountant at UCEAP. I'd like to first thank all of our students, parents, guardians, and support networks for joining us on our What Families Want to Know webinar. At this point in your student's journey, you're likely making plans and anticipating expenses for their study abroad program. I'd like to spend some time walking you through the support available to students regarding program costs, making payments to UCEAP, and ensuring that you have a seamless experience as you move from a UC campus to your program participation with UCEAP and returning back to your home campus. Every program has a dedicated finance accountant who is available to assist your student with questions on UCEAP budgets, program payments, and credit balance disbursements in conjunction with the campus financial aid office. You'll find the country-specific contact information for your finance accountant on the UCEAP contact page, which was referenced earlier in this presentation. Total estimated program costs, including fees paid to UCEAP and the out-of-pocket expenses, are available publicly on the cost tab of the individual program pages on the UCEAP website, so you have a comprehensive understanding of the costs associated with the program. And financial aid offices will include all program fees and personal expenses when determining a student's financial aid eligibility. There are further breakdowns of fees and more finance information located within the UCEAP portal under the Finance section. In the first section of the Estimated Budget tab, you'll see details about fees paid to UCEAP, including campus fees, UCEAP fees, and UC fees. Next is a section that estimates personal out-of-pocket expenses, including round-trip airfare, housing, meals, local transportation, pre-departure expenses, such as visa fees, and other incidentals associated with participating in your program. These expenses are updated yearly using data collected from students and from our partners abroad. The Fees and Payments tab has information about accessing the Transact payment portal to make program payments and other details regarding financial aid and withdrawal fees. Payment deadlines vary by program and are listed on this page. UCEAP uses a third-party payment processor known as Transact to collect online payments of UCEAP fees. Students can invite parents to Transact to make payments on their behalf if they wish. Credit cards, debit cards, and e-check online payments are available. Please note that bank statements will show UCSB rather than UCEAP. There are detailed instructions on how to make payments and how to give third-party access to make payments at the bottom of the fees and payments page. Extended payment plans are also available for UCEAP students. Please contact your country's finance accountant for details. For students eligible for financial aid from their home campus, aid is transferred to UCEAP prior to the program start date, and students do not need to do anything to have their aid transferred. This is an automatic process. Aid is typically dispersed no sooner than 10 days before the program start date. However, each UC campus has a unique timeline and may have delays in preparing aid. This means that you and your student may need to make arrangements to cover some of the out-of-pocket expenses, such as airfare or housing, prior to financial aid being dispersed. Please note that if your student is on financial aid, the first payment of $950 is not required. There is a $500 UCEAP withdrawal fee assessed for all withdrawals received after the withdrawal deadline, which varies depending on the term, and prior to the program start date. There may be additional withdrawal fees assessed by our partners. More information can be found in the fees and payments section of the finance menu on the UCEAP portal. If a student is not accepted into the program through no fault of their own, no fees will be billed. The financial impact of withdrawing involves many factors, including the timing of the withdrawal and the program the student is participating in. We highly encourage you to review the withdrawal fee information with your student in the fees and payments section of the finance menu in the UCEAP portal. And I will now turn it over to Noah Cutchins.
Thank you, Gildas. My name is Noah Cutchins. I'm an Associate Program Director here at UCEAP, and I'll be moderating our live Q&A session. We should have the live Q&A chat open now so you can submit questions. We also have a lot of staff here on hand to answer questions related to academics, to finance, to insurance, health and safety. So please feel free to start inputting your questions into the Q&A feature. Samantha, have you been able to activate this?
If it looks like it's activated.
Okay, I'm sorry. Oh, right, there we go. Well, as you ask your questions, we will be answering them both in the Q&A section of the chat, as well as any questions that come up. I'll pull together the most common questions. So, for example, for a mental health clearance, if you're currently being seen by a mental health professional, is there a specific mental health clearance required?
I can take that one, Noah. So if a student is going through the health clearance process and is currently seeing a mental health provider, that person should sign on the specialist side of the form. So each campus, if they're going through the campus student health center, would be asking that question and would be advising the student that yes, they do need to sign off on the specialist side of the form.
Okay, and another question about insurance. First, I want to remind everyone that this has been recorded and will be live on our website or be available on our website. So you can review any of the links that you missed or any of the slides here today at a later time as well. We know we won't be able to get to all of your questions today, so we're also going to provide resources where to submit questions in the future. And a question about insurance. What kind of insurance does a student need? I think that's
Sure.
maybe Nancy. Or
We
Julie.
can go ahead and take that one. So the student travel insurance program serves as the primary medical coverage while students are abroad. If a student is also enrolled in the UC SHIP insurance program while they're on their UC campus, they'll have to remain enrolled in that program as well.
A financial aid question. How would a student activate a payment deferment for financial aid?
The payment deferment, sorry, I'm not very clear on the question, but it sounds like that would be a question for the financial aid office. Sorry, I'm not really sure how to answer this.
And just generally for questions related to financial aid about
Oh,
when
sorry.
a package will be assessed, or will it be the same for UCAP on campus? Can we provide information about that?
Basically, the first payment is not required, and then in regards to the second, which is the final payment, the student is not responsible for paying anything that financially will cover, and the difference is due ideally by the final payment due date, and if it's necessary, we can make arrangements with the students if there's delays with the financial aid or if we need a final payment, pardon me, an extended payment plan. So just have the student contact their finance accountant, and then we will work with the financial aid office if need be.
Okay,
So I
thank
hope I
you.
understood this properly.
And I do see quite a lot of questions that are very specific to programs. So I just want to remind you that we have our program specialists, our academic specialists, and our finance accountants available for each program. You will be able to direct your very specific questions related to a specific program in a specific country or location, whether it's regarding housing or academics. Um, so housing is a very common question. What is the typical timeline when students will be find out about their housing arrangements, and how will they choose their housing arrangement typically?
Yeah, it's a great question. And as Noah, you mentioned, it is really going to vary a lot program to program. Some of the programs have program arranged housing. So students don't need to take any action. They will automatically be placed in housing. Some of those may have the ability to request a roommate. Generally, those roommate requests, if they are allowed for a certain housing opportunity, they both have to be it has to be a reciprocal request. Both individual students have to request to room together in order for those housing providers to provide them. Sort of on the other side of the spectrum, there are programs where students are able to utilize a huge range of resources that are compiled by our local staff and our program site staff to arrange their own individual housing. So if they would like to pursue a homestay, if they would like to live in a university dorm, if they wanted to look at some other long-term rentals for an Airbnb. Again, a lot of it is going to depend on the individual program, the duration of the program, and what is available for them. So the placement process, the placement timeline, the costs are all going to vary a lot. By program. There is some general information about the different types of housing available publicly on the UCEAP website, and each of those program page does have a housing menu on the left-hand side of the web page, but there are additional details on the timelines, the process, the cost, those other pieces that are within the UCEAP portal under their pre-departure requirements.
Thank you, Ashley. And a question about payment. Gildas, you did mention the payment portal and how uh, uh, people can pay to UCEAP, but a question about how much can be paid. Is it required to pay all at once, or there are steps or uh, different amounts that can be paid over time?
Right. So again, it depends if the student is receiving financial aid or not. If the financial aid, if the student is a financial aid student, then first of all, they don't need to again make that first payment of 950, and then they would only pay whatever the financial aid does not cover. Otherwise, if the student does not receive financial aid, they would have to make that first payment of 950 by the first payment due date, which is also the withdrawal due date, and then pay the remaining amount by the final payment due date, which is usually the first day of the month that the program starts in. And if necessary, again, we do offer extended payment plans, and for that, the student just needs to contact their finance accountant, and we're happy to help them with that.
We know that students are also waiting for information to appear in the portal. Uh, do we have an answer possibly for what information they'll be able to see in the portal and when they'll be able to see it?
Is this related to
Yes, Ben.
finance or general?
like arrival information, program dates.
Oh yeah. That is once again going to vary based on the departure timeline. We have summer programs that are departing in mid-June. We have other ones that they don't depart until late July. And again, some of those program dates are going to come a little bit later, as well as arrival information. But generally, once students are really beginning the pre-departure phase of the cycle, they're going to get a pre-departure email that's going to announce, what are their next steps, what are some important dates for them to be aware of, and the information that's posted in the portal. If there's anything that is not currently posted in the portal, there may be an indication of when that item is expected to be posted based on the historical timelines from previous years. And also, if there are any additions like arrival information, if it hasn't been posted, program specialists and the study abroad advisors will make an announcement via email to let students know that that information has been added to their portal and that they can go in and access it.
And I do see some follow-up questions regarding financial aid. And our finance accountants who are here today can guide you to the right information and if they're not able to answer your question directly. So we just want you to be reassured that you can get the information. If we don't have it for you today, we're going to point you in the right direction. There are still lots of questions about insurance. And I think questions are generally related about using your own insurance or a ship waiver. Is there something you can say about that,
Sure.
Julie?
So let's talk first about the question I saw in the chat. We had someone who say they were a Kaiser, and how can we advocate with Kaiser for coverage for what the UCEAP student travel policy might not cover? So what's important to know is that it is a fairly comprehensive policy. What it doesn't provide coverage for are preventative care. So things like if you have annual gynecological visits or routine dental check, or if you have routine STI testing, those things are not covered by the travel accident illness injury policy. But if a student has an accident illness injury, there are large amounts of coverages for those events, in addition to the emergency medical evacuation. We also have what's called an emergency reunion benefit. That's where if a student is hospitalized for more than 24 hours, it pays for a member of their support network to fly from the US to the program city and be with the student while they are hospitalized. That is not a kind of coverage that your typical health insurance plan would have. Where it is helpful to advocate to your own health insurance coverage is for students to have access to any of their medication for the duration of their program time. As long as that medication is legally allowed to be taken into that country in the quantity that is needed, it is best if you can have that done in California before students depart for their programs. So oftentimes the health insurance might require the letter of participation with the dates to prove that this is the amount of time that you're requesting medication for. And typically there is support for giving medication in that length of time. Noah, I also see that there's another question here
About the
acknowledging the
escalation.
escalation
Yeah.
of the Iran conflict, and certainly involving Europe. So what I want to emphasize is that we cannot guarantee safety. We couldn't guarantee safety on a UC campus. There are risks everywhere. There are risks involved with international travel. What we want to share with you is that we have a lot of resources that are monitoring the situation. We are in close connection with Crisis 24, our security assistance provider. We have other intelligence services that the University of California subscribes to. We follow the US Department of State. We are also looking at travel advisories of other countries as well. We have staff that are on the ground in many of these countries helping to inform us of what is happening locally. So we do have contingency plans. We do have security evacuation coverage. We would not want to reach that moment where we need to have a security evacuation coverage, we would want to hopefully look at the escalation and be informed in advance and make reasonable decisions to move students to another location or return students to California if needed. It is very important that students update their address while abroad and their phone number while abroad section in the portal. In the event of a crisis, we need to be able to reach students. So that is critical. Us being able to communicate with you and acting quickly, that is essential in a crisis. So please remind your students of the importance of doing that.
Thank you, Julie. And I know your team works really hard to prepare students throughout the departure process as well. So I think that concludes the question and answer portion. So I'm going to give it back to you, Lauren.
Thank you, Noah. And while we're on that topic, and I'm just going to underline something Julie said earlier in her section, please remind your students they need to have a phone that can call out. If there is an emergency and we need to contact them and they're relying on Wi-Fi and we can't contact them, we're gonna be worried. You're gonna be worried. Everyone's gonna be worried. So please impress upon them. They have to have a phone that can call out. We really need to be able to contact them. So that's my last little reminder. So on behalf of UCEAP, we want to thank you all for attending today's webinar. Thank you for all the wonderful questions. We are actually going to launch one last poll before you leave, just to see if there's any other topics that you would have liked to see have us cover today. Keeping in mind that this webinar is not going to cover program-specific information. Your student will get program-specific information in their program orientation, but if there's any general topics that you would have liked to see us cover, please do pop it in this poll. And then also just keep in mind that if we didn't get to your question today, or if you have any questions at a later date, please contact us via the program staff member through the contacts that we gave through our other slides or the links on this slide as well. You can also email our general UCEAP email address, which is on this slide. We are going to post a recording of this webinar on the What Families Want to Know webpage on the UCEAP website, which you can access from this QR code. And we did post various QR codes throughout this presentation, so if you weren't able to use them in real time, you will be able to access them through the recording, which will be up later. Again, thank you so much for your time, and we wish you and your student all the best on their upcoming journey.